Alright, I'm gonna give another certain narration. This time it's gonna be for a forthcoming film. And it's kind of a bizarre idea where I'm gonna be reviewing Devil May Cry. Now, I've only played 2 games in the Devil May Cry series, and that is the third game, Devil May Cry 3 Dante's Awakening, on PS2. I have the Special Edition, and Devil May Cry 4 on PC. Even though I was able to play it, it still runs like crap. But everybody probably knows what the story behind Devil May Cry is, since it's always been drilled into the heads of everybody who plays it. But for those of you who didn't, I'm just gonna say that there was a demon that rebelled against his own kind, and in doing so sealed away the gate between the human and the demonic realm. At first I thought he just sealed away a certain tower in the one that appeared in Devil May Cry 3, but I discovered that looking through the plots of some of the other Devil May Cry games, apparently he had a really busy life. And after a few thousand years, somehow after sealing practically everything, he just decided to sit down and have kids. The story focuses on his son Dante. He's a famous devil hunter that works in a shop named, obviously, Devil May Cry. Because he is half demon, he has certain supernatural abilities, and one of them, which the games always show, is that he can survive being impaled several times and still come out with no problem. When the plot behind Devil May Cry 3 is that it's kind of the prequel to the first Devil May Cry, and that Dante is kind of discovering who he is, since his twin brother was trying to summon a tower to reopen the demonic realm to retrieve his father's power. In Devil May Cry 4, the plot is kind of a bit more messed up. This is the first game where, as the main plot, you don't normally play as Dante. Instead, you play as Dante lookalike named Nero, who is plainly human, but needs to hunt down Dante for his religious society. The gameplay-wise, Devil May Cry is a decent hack and mame. The problem I don't have many problems with that. The only problems that I kind of have is with the special edition, and I should bring it up because Devil May Cry 4 kind of piggybacks off of the special edition of Devil May Cry 3. In Devil May Cry 3 special edition, the Dante's twin brother Virgil is playable, but only in a separate save file. The only problem is both Dante and Virgil are extremely unequal, because Dante has an enormous amount of skills. His typical skills like gunslinger or swordmaster, not to mention that he's able to pull off some other abilities like different combos and double jumps, not to mention a lot of new weapons and guns. Virgil is much different. His only gun is spamming swords to impale the enemy, and he only has 3 weapon types, and their combos aren't really that fancy. And he can't double jump, so to get to higher places I had to pull off some really crazy maneuver by having him teleport in midair just above where he in mid-jump. I would congratulate Devil May Cry 4 because they did make Nero and Dante somewhat equal to some extent. They both have similar actions. Both can double jump, for instance. and both can use guns and charge them up to do more damage. But there's a big difference. Dante still has the styles, the gunslinger and swordmaster, whatever. Nero has a demonic arm. That's the only thing that makes them very unequal. Sure, the demonic arm is pretty fun to grab enemies, chuck them around, but the problem with it is that mostly when you start out the game, all the new items that you usually get, you always get for the arm. And some of it is just completely useless. For instance, one of the accessories allows Nero's arm to glow near certain stashes of red orbs or secret missions or whatever, but since the game is combat-based, it's completely useless. The other vestige that Devil May Cry has that I kind of find a little bit annoying is defense. There are some ways to defend yourself. Dante has the style Royal Guard, where you can block enemy attacks, but that's not the game's style. Either you attack, dodge, or get hit. And the third kind of issue is some of the puzzles. I like the certain puzzles to be set up in a certain way. For instance, when I first played Devil May Cry 3, going through the tower I found a certain spear thing that said it was just merely ornamental, but since I was expecting a weapon, I decided it's not worth it. What I really discovered was that it had a purpose to go forwards, so just because it wasn't a weapon doesn't mean it's completely useless. But Devil May Cry 4 goes the separate mile to trying to drill into your skull that you need to use this thing. And some of the things are pretty useless. For instance, one of the first accessories allows you to animate certain statues just by hitting them with Nero's arm. The only problem is they aren't very common outside of certain points in the game. And when you encounter these statues, they usually say, oh, this thing is resonating with the statues, you should use this for that. It's just really pointless. All you do is basically the game just points a huge arrow towards the object and say, here, use it on this. But the one thing that kind of ticked me off about Devil May Cry 4 was there's some of the puzzles are just completely annoying, and the main one, the dice game puzzle, it just is utterly pointless. Since all you do is hit a dice around and move a statue of Nero through a certain area, but at one point in the game, this appears and you have to do it over and over again. And they increase the number of steps. So, you have to hit the exact same area. So you have to be as lucky as crap to do that. That's enough ranting about Devil May Cry, the game. I'll see what I can dig up about the movie, or what would be the movie. So, see you then.